Okay, so we are jumping in live. This is the OBR Film Breakdown channel. We are going to do our best with this. We got some StreamYard is not cooperating as efficiently as we had hoped for. Not the end of the world, but that is the hand that we are currently dealt. So we were unable to keep the videos streamlined. So we will keep them, as as streamlined as I guess we possibly can with this situation, and go through some plays that myself, Jon Stephanson, who is obviously with us here, you know him on OBR forums, Buckeye 198 181. He is great with defensive side of the football, does coordinating for a high school football team on the defensive side for multiple years. Is somebody I turn to whenever I have questions about defensive philosophy, defensive scheme. And we're just going to talk through the Browns' day defensively, what went wrong, why the Ravens were able to bust off a ton of plays, and do our best to just kind of have a chat about all of it, and talk about why the Browns are having some struggles defending this, and looking at whether it was more player, more coach, more scheme, kind of get the gist of all of it, and get John's thoughts too. So, John, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Jake. Thanks for producing this. Thanks for running the show.
Yeah, well, let's jump right in, man. We're gonna have to go through a lot and pull up a bunch of different videos as we go. Unfortunately, it won't be a streamlined video. The production value is not going to be perfect, but we can look at each one of these things. So, listen, let's do this. We're gonna try to pull up this little pin we have over here, and then you, as we go, John, you let me know what you want, anything you want circled, highlighted, whatever. So we're looking first play here. I like to let the play run through. I don't know what's going on here. Some real technical issues with being able to pull clean video right now. We might need to just might need to pull straight from Game Pass, but I'm not sure yet. I'm going to see if we can formulate some kind of answer here. Bear with us just a moment. Felt like this was a great idea at the time, but here we are. So we are going to look through this. Let's do it this way, and let's see if we can't get the film to play this way, we are going to be in a little bit of trouble. So let's try downloading it one more time. First one we're going to look at is what, John?
Conflict.
Okay, so let's try and download it one more time. If it doesn't work, we put our best foot forward, and we'll try to play it through in the traditional sense. I do not know what's going on here. Everything is bouncing. And I did not feel like originally it was. Is it doing this on... Not doing it here. So it says it's something about my QuickTime player. So we'll just go this way. Do the best we can.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we're looking at conflict situations and struggles that come from conflict. And I'm sure as we look at the end zone view, you're going to have something to say about how they put a strain on this defensive end to the right here. So talk me through what the Ravens are doing here and what the challenge is for the Browns defense.
So we know that the Ravens are a read offense, and that they often leave a defender unblocked in the run game. We know that they put a ton of pressure on your run fits to get them right, to read after the snap, to adjust all the motion they throw your way. It's a ton to process in a short amount of time, and in this case, what we're going to see is our end here, number 97. We're just a little basic, looks like zone, veer, whatever you want to call it. They're leaving them unblocked. So one of the principles behind Joe Wood's defense, and one of his philosophies, is he wants to play what's called gapped out. So that's just a fancy way of saying that in his base single high, he needs a single run defender for each available gap. And when you're facing these read type of offenses, and particularly with what the Ravens do, it puts a ton of pressure on your guys to adjust to these moving gaps. So all these pullers, the fullbacks and tight ends in the backfield, the arc blocks, the slice blocks, all that stuff. It's a ton of movement and it has to be matched on both sides. So I guess the reason I selected this play is because it really shows how wrong it can go when you've got when you have a defender being red here, unless it's Myles Garrett, although he gets hit with it too. And I guess that the point I want to get across here is that although technically this end is he has the quarterback boot or the quarterback pull, so he has to, as the play goes along, he's going to pinch inside or just sort of come down the line flat as he sees the tackle release the block. One issue we already see here is that his shoulders need to be more parallel to the line of scrimmage. He wants to be straight here. He's got to keep himself in his power position, so he can either bend inside for the tailback cutback or stay outside with the quarterback boot. And that's one of the big issues with only devoting one defender to both of these roles. So we're gapped out, but we really need an extra defender to truly cover this, to really truly be +1 versus the QB run game, because it's almost impossible, really, with Lamar running it, for a single defender to be able to both keep him inside when he pulls the ball, but also play the tailback cutback when he's just gonna try and bang it right off 72's butt. It's just so difficult to do both. And again, but the issue is that it comes down to math. It's numbers. If you want to truly devote, be +1 or devote a defender to both the tailback cutback, to the quarterback boot, and also remain gapped out. So one player for every other gap, you need to play blitz coverage. You got to play zero. It's really the only way to do it. So when you're asking your player here to be a 2-for-1 player, this is the kind of thing that tends to happen.
So what essentially we have to have here is somebody for running back and somebody for pull. So on this play, as you're looking at this as a casual onlooker, right, John? So it's Goodson and Gustin that have to make something happen here. Either you're dictating Lamar pulls it, right, or whatever, and you have a scrape, right, or you have him stay home and he's here for plug.
Yeah.
The issue here is they have two guys that essentially play the same role, and this is the discipline we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
To me, it's just so fascinating that both guys, and I know this is a little bit of a wrinkle here where they're almost, I don't know, do you think Baltimore schemed this up this way to have the back bounce, or do you think that it's Edwards reading this, taking the football almost from Lamar in this sense, and just saying, hey, I see a window of opportunity outside, I'm going to try to press outside?
No, I think this
is designed.
No, I think this is designed to bend all the way back because generally the linebacker, he's reading he'll be reading Goodson in this case, reading number 72, the right guard, as his run pass key, and then he's going to read the block type, for play type, play direction. And when you get that pull from the center and from the tackle, in order to stay gapped out to the left side, to the offense's left side, he has to scrape over top there. So he really shouldn't even be in here. He needs to. So if the ball was handed off and the tailback tried to bounce it out that way, the defense would be a man short. They are a man short. They can't handle both of these moving gaps without 93 sliding over. So what I think happened, well, one of two things. Either as Goodson read 72's block on the 4 technique, kind of dipping inside there, I think that maybe he didn't see that as a down block. It turns into more of a base block because they're moving this big gap.
You're talking this block here, right?
Yep. Our 3 technique in between 72 and 70. So it looks like maybe they've got a little game on where he's slanting over one gap inside with Goodson then taking or replacing in the B gap.
Yep.
So either I think that there was a game on, or it's just possible that he didn't read 72's block correctly. He didn't. Normally, it's more of a down block type thing where 72 is cutting off that 3 technique or that B gap defender, and because he didn't read it correctly, he ended up on this side of the ball. But either way you look at it, it's they're short. Backside here, or to the direction in which the tailback runs. And you hit this already. There are 2 possible options here. So they can have the DN stay wide to force the tailback, to force the give to the tailback, and have Goodson play his home gap, assuming we don't get or his original A gap, assuming that there's no we don't have pullers. Or they can squeeze the defensive end all the way down to play the tailback cutback and also to force the ball to the quarterback. But if they're going to do that, again, 97 dipping all the way in and, literally trying to tackle the tailback as he meshes with Lamar, then that linebacker needs to be all the way outside there. He's now the contained defender. Like a lot of times people call it scrape exchanges.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of dictate who you want to have the football.
That's exactly what you're doing. You're deciding who you want to carry the football. And my guess is that these type of things, they want the unless there's a specific game on, like a gap game or some type of blitz, they want the DN to stay wide and surf or drop his hips, shuffle in, but again, be in more square to get the ball to the tailback. So what I think happened is again, this very likely was designed because they expected Goodson to flow with the pullers. Like, I don't think they expected him to be right here where he was. So if you're looking at assuming the tailback is going to bend the ball, he's going to be breaking right off the right ass cheek in number 72 here. So if Goodson isn't there, that's your seam.
That too is like a discussion. You got to think if you scrape exchange with 93 responsible for 8 in the traditional sense, that's obviously a mismatch. I mean, Lamar's a more athletic player in space. So the ideal thing to me is having 97 squat, keep whatever inside read is inside, force that football inside from whether that's Lamar running. I'd rather Lamar running north and south into congested tackle boxes than having these options to run the football in the perimeter like this.
Or even better, just hand it off.
Exactly.
Back of the tailback.
Exactly. All right, so let's jump to the second one. What do we got next?
This will be Bash 1.
Bash, pretty fun concept if you like offensive football, which if you know me, I'm a fan of the offensive side of the football. So this is a challenging scheme for defenses to handle. We'll watch it through here. It's different. It's different than what some people know as power read, right? Which is same side defensive end read. It's unique in this sense. It is completely unique reading a different end than what we are accustomed to seeing, and it creates some interior rushing lanes. I love the end zone view here, so let's talk from the end zone view.
Yeah, so this is what I would call counter bash. So when you hear bash, it usually stands for back away. And what's meant by that is rather than the tailback going with the blocks as he normally does, like just think, simple power, guard pulls, the tailback's running that way. Basically everything's flipped. So the tailback's going to go away from the blocks and the quarterback's going to go with them. So that's really the key there, and that's part of what makes this so difficult. So we have a guard tackle pull here. Your outside edge player, in this case number 54, OB, he's going to be the read man. And again, the defense wants to play gapped out here, right? So they want to have a man for each gap. But it's difficult here. And can we go back to the wide view very quickly?
Yep.
Okay, so here's our issue here. Notice how many safeties we have at the top of the screen. This looks like some sort of red 2 or essentially a Tampa 2, a red zone or modified Tampa 2. So we're in too high now. So we can't play gapped out. We don't have enough defenders if we're in too high. So one of the big issues that occurs here is that this run is they fit this run like they're gapped out, like they can account for a one defender, one gap. But they have too high safety, so they don't have enough. So when that happens, there are several different things teams will do. When they're to account for the short defender, so they have to find ways to what we call gain a gap. So you can do this by by spilling the ball or by attacking pulls in a way that forces the ball carrier to bounce outside. You can cancel gaps by using line movement, like the interior or even the full line. Slanting, inside one gap or outside one gap. You can do it by two gap and interior defender. You can do it by using what's called ball fits from your linebackers. So rather than fitting on a specific gap, they're literally following the running back's path. They're patting their feet at the snap. They aren't getting any, they're not approaching the line, no depth. They're just, literally bouncing on their toes. And then as the running back declares where he's going, then they attack that gap. But the moral of the story is, because they're short here, they have to do something different. They can't fit this like this is one high. And when all said and done, when we go back to that view is we're going to see that we have 4 defenders, play side or towards the pullers handling 5 gaps. So again, we have to, if we want to play this gapped out, and can we go back to the tight view, please?
Yep.
We need to match. We need to be able to match 2 moving gaps going from the defense's right to the defense's left. And go ahead.
Yep.
All right. So going back to what goes wrong here, and I hate to pick on Myles Garrett because he's all world, but if they're fitting this from too high, he cannot box this ball inside here. And by box, we mean he's attacking this first puller in such a way, using his inside shoulder on the puller's outside shoulder like this to force the ball back inside. The problem is the defense can't match those numbers. They don't have enough. So what probably needed to happen here is Garrett needs to spill this block. He needs to attack the blocker's inside shoulder with his outside shoulder and force the ball to bounce. By bouncing the ball, that's what gives the the safety, the corner, all the other defenders time to to chase the ball here. And if we go a little, let's go back to that tight view there.
Well, if what you're saying here is if this ball gets spilled, he fits inside and this bounces. Look who's swatting with nobody there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what we want to do. That's what this is exactly what you have to do when you're fitting at it too high. You have to do things to cancel gaps or push the ball to the perimeter. People call that off the table in order to give defenders time to run there. So when if
Lamar's getting downhill, this safety doesn't have a chance. He's not going to get to him until he's effectively 2 yards from the goal line. It's not going to matter. But like you're saying, if Myles spills this, he has to push laterally for a few steps, and you have an angle here. You can make a play before he reaches the end zone. Yeah. So it's a completely understandable concept when you're in too high that they're out-gapped. And it doesn't help. 2 things that I notice. It doesn't help 93 concerned about alignment until the very last second. I mean, look when the ball snapped, look where he's at. His hand is in the direction of somebody needing to move. He's clearly ill-equipped to play downhill football. So his first 2 steps as a linebacker in run game are retreating backward.
Yeah, not good. And again, can you run that just a little bit further? And then roll for pause it. Take it back just a tad bit, maybe right as they're meshing. Okay, there we go. That's fine. Okay, so what I want to point out here again, this concept of being out gap to the play side. So we look to the backside here, splitting down the middle. We have a player for the tailback bend, right? Over our center here. We have OB playing the the tailback, essentially the wide path here. We also have Taki over here, but then moving to the other side of the center. Now we have we have 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders in the screen right here, and in fact, let's see, Mac Wilson's about to get cracked here, which caused issues as well. But moral of the story is when you include the pullers, we have 5 gaps. So this is exactly why we can't fit this like we're gapped out, single high, because we don't have enough players. And that's what happens here. So even if Wilson were to beat that block, if he were to fit on that second puller's outside shoulder and Goodson would to fit on the inside shoulder, we're still 1 short. So if you look at Richardson all the way down, it's going to be the, I believe the gap between the tackle and the guard there. No one's there. They don't have a defender for it. So that's what it comes down to. You just have to you have to do something other than fit single eye. It's possible maybe there was a game on, maybe the alignment wasn't correct. There can always be something that something else going on that we're not privy to. We don't have the play call, so we're making best guesses, educated guesses here. But just looking at the number issue, something wasn't right.
And, too, there's something that I find interesting is kind of where Lamar's eyes are. There are some people that think within the Ravens structure that they don't have him read a ton of stuff.
They don't.
As you watch his eyes, I mean, he's reading 54. I mean, the idea from a quarterback's perspective is, hey, man, if you think we can get outside and that 54 has no leverage to be able to stop an outside handoff, give it to him. It's tough here, especially from this angle, even the other angle, too. It's such a judgment call, a split-second judgment call from the quarterback, right? Like,
although
his eyes could be corner eyeing, the NFL Game Pass does not provide crystal clear. They've gotten worse with the quality of the video. So, I mean, you're deciding as a quarterback, hey, man, do I think that this guy, if I give him the football, can beat this defensive end and get outside? right? Because you can see the outside guys on the left side of the defense right side are trying to just pin down, right? That's all they're doing. They're taking care of Taki. If we go to the wide view, I'm sure you're going to see these two, which is Ricard and Willie Snead. They're just here. I mean, obviously the Browns have a safety for it to handle it. No man to block him. But sometimes there's the concept that, hey man, we're just going to pull this. They call it that way, whatever. So
yeah. So Greg Roman has said before that a lot of the stuff they're not reading, and anytime they're running this stuff in the red zone or third and short, third and run, Lamar's pulling the ball. It's not happening. But they devote coaches in the booth to watching exactly what the defenders are doing. Are they honoring the contained responsibility? What kind of gap games are they running? And based on that,
it's the same thing the Browns are doing when they're looking at their wide zone. Do they think they can beat play action on the backside? Yep. You just have coaches tagging all that stuff. Hey, man, watch this backside in. Can we get around him? So let's look at another example of the smash concept. Now, this time, Miles plays it really well. I think this is Miles Hellman. This is like 1985 quality of picture right now. So it's pretty obvious that it's a pull read. Now, the challenging thing is that this thing can open up anywhere. Is even with power read, John, I know from running it back in my playing days, it can open up tackle to tackle. Although you're pulling one side, the flow and general direction, sometimes defenders just lose where they're supposed to be. Eyes get undisciplined. And, look at this situation we have with gaps here, man. Like, go ahead.
Okay, so we're getting same play here. We're looking at a counter bash. Or we're pulling the guard, we're pulling the tackle, reading a man line of scrimmage, or Myles Garrett in this case. So this time around, the defense does have numbers for the the quarterback play side or towards the pulls. Like this is fit up okay. Like they can match everything that happens here. The issue is looking at the backside here when he pulls. So okay, pause it right there. Take it back right there. Perfect. Okay, so here's the thing. We have our nose guard or our nose tackle here, right? And technically he's in his gap. We have Garrett all the way out here, and technically he is sitting on the tailback's path, to force the quarterback pull. So they're both correct, but the problem is, look at how much distance there is between the two. There's a massive seam here, and even though I guess like on paper or on the whiteboard they are correct and where they need to be, it's so difficult to deal with that space, especially with Lamar when Lamar goes. I mean, and Ogunjobi, unfortunately, he has to make this play here. But it's not an easy play. Again, the distance is it's so much to cover both, and now you're putting it on your nose tackle to make a play on Lamar, and what could be a lot of space. So it just schematically it puts so much pressure on your guys, and it's it's just so tough to do both. I can't emphasize that enough, particularly with these players. So, even a player like Myles Garrett doesn't have the ability to play the tailback path or the boot and also squeeze down the cutback or the bend, which we get from, Lamar here.
So the answer here is kind of Myles' path is being a little tighter. I guess my question becomes, if Myles doesn't contain this, who's answering this running back? Right, yeah. Like that's why to me it's a really big challenge. Like obviously, kind of try to squeeze both, but it's the Browns are playing a ton of man-to-man, which they did. It's a challenge. It's a good scheme against what Cleveland was doing defensively, right?
Yeah. Well, Baltimore's been killing teams with this exact play all year. But I guess if we want to nitpick, Myles shouldn't be so deep in the backfield. This is one time where or an instance where his outstanding get off is too much. Like he would have a chance of maybe dipping back inside when Lamar pulled if he'd held up a step or two earlier there. He doesn't need to get so deep, but that's about the best that can happen there. Like you'd rather him be surfing or bending his knees in his power position, like around the 35-yard line maybe. Again, this is a bit of a quibble, but if he can do that, maybe 1-2 yards off the line of scrimmage, then he could be in a place where maybe he can, get a hand on Lamar, get his left arm in, squeeze him down.
I'm with it, but this is obviously a situation where the Browns are better fit to have too high, right? Like it's
could be, yeah. It just depends, I don't know what their tendencies told them. I don't know what the play call is. I don't know what they thought they would get from this particular formation. This down and distance. There are just so many factors that go into a play call that without knowing what exactly the game plan was and what they expected here, it's hard to say. But again, if they feel that their best chance here is to play in too high and really get the ball out of Lamar's hand by squeezing Garrett all the way down, then that's going to be the way to do it. But
what makes Bash so challenging when you watch it from this view is everything you read from a linebacker perspective tells you run right.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they run power read, which is where they're taking this guard and pulling this guard around for that play side inside, the back would be to your side, and every ounce of flow goes this direction. So this is why this scheme, and Balta, this is not a Cleveland specific thing. They've scored on this scheme 4 or 5 times this year, and I'm talking big runs.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to cover, man, and it's tough to cover when you have a guy like number 8 that can carry it. So you hope they don't call it a ton, I guess. So they're going to have to find a solution for it, because I can tell you they're going to keep coming to it as the Browns continue to play. And what do you got next?
Let's see. How about bad blitz contain?
All right, that's a continual thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can start. We'll probably need to watch the end zone view here.
Yeah, just keep it tight.
Yep.
All right. So, well, we know that there were several issues with keeping Lamar in the pocket. Pardon me, and contain pass rush. So I chose this first one because it's just such a gimme here. So well, let me back up. So going into the week, a team is going to game plan their rush plan. There's a ton of detail that's put into it. There's a lot of thought that's put into it. Time in the film room, time on the practice field. A lot of time spent on the specific scheme, and a couple things that would have been emphasized going into this game where the interior guys need to stay in their rush lanes. Can't cross the center. The outside guys, they probably need to take a more a shallower path into the backfield this week, because they don't want to get washed past Lamar and have him just step up through that void there, kind of like we see there, although this one isn't too bad from OB. So moral of the story is we want our ends to rush a little more shallower this week, and we want our interior guys to stay in their lanes and to avoid crossing the center over to the other side. So we've got a 5-man pressure here, and this is just a gimme. So we're going to get, I call this a pirate stunt. So we're going to get the B gap defender Ogunjobi rip into the A. We're going to get the C gap defender ripping into the B, and then we're going to get this pressure off the edge here. So we've got MJ Stewart, I believe, and this is pretty self-explanatory. It starts out well. We get a good rush, but he dips inside. He chases him inside instead of holding outside, and everyone else is rushing or choosing a rush path, based on the assumption that he's going to be there outside to contain this. So like Miles can get it back inside, or he can rip back across the guard's face here, and they try and get maybe some kind of inside rush, because the blitzer should be out there, and it doesn't happen. He just gets impatient, he chases it in, and that's all it takes. Now we've lost this.
This is exactly what happened later in the game when, obviously BJ, I wrote about it, man, chases inside on a scheme. Needs to be the out. It's a bunch of do your job stuff, in my opinion. They got a bunch of guys who tried to play some hero ball in terms of I see an easy path to a quarterback right here. I think it's obvious if you put yourself in MJ Stewart's shoes. It's pretty obvious that he wants to take this crack, and a quarterback is there, but this isn't an average quarterback, man. Like he's so fast. He's so quick change of direction that you can't take 1 ounce of undisciplined step. You have to know that I have guys inside that are going to take care of him if he chooses to leave up the middle of the pocket. Like if you watch all game, he didn't leave middle pocket. He didn't have to. He didn't have to. He just can escape laterally because the Browns allowed him to escape laterally. So big problem, man. Big problem on discipline in those situations, which was really frustrating. Do we have another one of those? We got lanes.
Yeah, we have several. Lane 1, lane 2, lane 3. Just dealer's choice there.
Yeah, let's look at these quickly. Just talk about where they're going wrong.
All right, let's go to the tight or the end zone view for these. I think it'll be easier for everyone. All right. I believe this is going to be number 97 on this one. Let's run it through.
You gotta make a play, man. You're there. You gotta get hands on him and make a play. I mean, this one I think they're okay rush lanes wise, but
yeah, the thing is, I think that maybe Richardson was given the green light to shoot over one gap inside. Like they're not going to go from the front. He started as a B gap defender. Yeah, ends up in the A gap. So I'm thinking and notice that 90 or Elliott, he pushed over one gap as well. So I think they had a little game on here. But if you're gonna do this with the interior, then the outside guy, particularly opposite the direction in which the gap's going. So 97 again here. He just has to use a contained pace rush. He can't get washed by the quarterback at all because they're assuming that when 96 wins inside here, that Lamar's going to be pushed right to him. So he has to do everything he can not to get washed past the quarterback here.
Yeah,
that's it. It's not his job.
And you need Elliott to be proactive, right? Like, I mean, I know looks to me like he's getting held here, but this is never going to be called. Hands are inside. I mean, he's trying to get off here. He's getting his arm held inside, but like that's never going to be called. But you got a club, man. You got to do something. You can't just you're not fighting pressure with anything. Knock his arm off, club down, club up, whatever.
Yeah.
But you need guys who are cleaning up these things, man.
Yeah, you like him to get off the block, but it's something where particularly because he shot it over one gap to the gap on that side, he's not going to get over here and make a play on Lamar. No one is. I mean, really, it's on the end right here. He had to do everything he could not to get washed past the quarterback, and you saw what happened. And the thing is, that's part of the pass rush design. They're when they slant the interior defenders in that direction, they're assuming that it's going to come out, opposite the movement or opposite the slant. It's just let's see this one. Is this number 2?
Yep.
What do we got? Right side. Oh yeah, this was Miles.
I don't know what on earth is going on.
So yeah, look at it's this entire side. So Miles and Sheldon Richardson. Look where they start. Look where they end up. I mean, Richardson. He shoots over. It looks like almost a couple gaps when all is said and done. I mean, there's 7-8 yards to work with here. Tackle gets locked up on Miles, gets him, and somehow he stumbles or gets his hands inside, and that's that.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what Miles is doing, man. I get you probably think you're being held or something is going on here, but like, put your left foot in the ground and spin back inside.
Yeah,
it's bad. You can't do this against Drew Lock, let alone Lamar Jackson. I mean, I don't know. There's not much that needs to be said there. You just can't. Yeah, you can't let it happen. And this is the stuff that was happening far too often. You need your defensive line to be almost perfect, especially with the Browns back half. They need to be almost perfect, man.
Absolutely.
Especially too, at right tackle that's not Ronnie Stanley. That's not. Is that Orlando Brown? I'm not sure who's in.
That's a good question.
They've done some shuffling after losing Stanley. I think Brown's number 78. They got him at left tackle now.
Okay. Yeah, so same issue here. We lose our
two tackles inside, 2 people too deep.
Yep, nobody's too deep. Our D tackles too far inside. There's our seam, man. Defense is in man coverage, so their eyes are on their man's hip. They're visual keys. No eyes in the backfield.
Talk to me real quick about this concept of a spy. People will say that, well, you need someone to spy him here. Mm-hmm. What's your response to that?
My response to a spy, particularly on Lamar Jackson, is I think that more times than not, it is a wasted player because there aren't any linebackers in the league. There are very few defensive players at all that can stand and bounce on their feet 5 yards off the line of scrimmage and affect Lamar Jackson's path where he's going. I think that player is much better served being used to maybe rob the inside middle, catch crossing routes, to double team the most dangerous receiver, to blitz, just blitz and use a contain rush on the outside, bring them. I I don't think the bang's worth the buck. I don't. It's not.
Unless you have a special player, man.
I mean, we know that when Ronnie Harrison was in, we talked about that third down personnel package we would get where they would take Ogunjobi out and they'd bring Harrison down as a linebacker. They'd go with their nickel linebackers, Malcolm Smith and Goodson, and then they'd bring in an extra safety. So we'd still have so we'd have three safeties on the field. So if you want to do it with a player like that, absolutely. I think that you can get away with that if you choose if you have a DB that can handle something like that. But on a play-to-play basis, I think using a linebacker like that's just a wasted player, at least against Lamar. So less elusive guys.
Yeah. It looks to me here looks like they're playing some sort of cover one or man free.
Yeah, they're in man.
They're certainly chopping crossers with 56, kind of letting him low hole it.
Yeah, he's robbing the low hole there.
I mean, it's like I think that you might try to stay home just a little bit in this situation. I don't know. There's a lot of woulda going on. If he doesn't low hole it, it's probably an easy little flick throw.
Yeah, and they could be telling him too that they want him to run with. The first thing you see is coming across as well.
Yeah, for sure.
One of those where we don't know what exactly he's being coached to do, so it's just it's hard to say. Sometimes when you're using a low hole robber and man, you'll tell me just want that give it the first crosser, sees a good push, but then square back up and read the quarterback. Other times you tell him, look, just run with him. Let's turn into a true double team. If he's there. So.
For sure. Yep. This is missed tackle. We'll look at this from the tight view.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I believe the Ravens are unbalanced here. You see that everyone is on the left side. And the issue with this one is they fit this well. This run fit's fine. They match it. Again, this is single high, so they're using gapped out run fits, so one defender for each gap. And Wilson gets there. It's a basic power play. So we're pulling the guard. Everyone else is blocking down. It's down. We're going to kick out here, and a couple good things happen. First, if you go back, watch Carl Joseph take on this block. So this is one thing that Joseph excels at. He's physical as hell in the box, and he's not afraid of contact, and he'll create the pile up. So we're gapped out, so we are boxing this. So notice how he submarines the guard here. But the thing is, it's not that he just forced the ball inside. Look how he sort of stones the guard's path, and look at the seam. Look how tight that hole is there. So a lot of players, they'll attack that guard, but they're not going to do it in a physical way. They're going to let the guard continue to gain ground there. So this hole, about here, it's going to end up a couple yards wider. So it makes it that much more difficult then for the fill-in linebackers because it's more space in which the tailback could operate. But Joseph just stops him, stone cold in his path right there, and that gives the linebackers a smaller seam to deal with. And then we get to Mack Wilson. Like this, the fit's good. They have a defender on each side of the pullers, but you got to make the play, make the tackle. And I don't know if it was a balance issue. I don't know. I didn't know if he thought that the runner was going to continue at him instead of sort of bending it back. But he's got to make the tackle. And the other issue is Taki coming all the way over here. So he because his gap leaves, he needs to slide across, and he doesn't. He gets too far over the side here. So if we go a little further, we'll say he could have made this play even with. So the fit's fine. We're good. We'll keep going. Nice and slow. Okay, so he needs to stay on the outside here. So we have Wilson on the the outside shoulder of the ball carrier. We see Goodson in position to play the inside shoulder of the ball carrier. And then what you want to do with something like this is when it comes to leverage-based tackling, you want a defender on each side, and you want the safety there to fit them heads up. So looking at this, we've got Sendeo head up. We've got Wilson on one side. We've got Goodson on the other. And then if Taki stays on the his right side here, other side of the man, then he covers that other seam that the tailback's going to take it through eventually. See, he's crossed when he cuts it outside there. You take it a little further. So, and that's what blocks Sendeo. So Taki should be over on the other side of that. And that can, stops it from, a decent gain to what we saw, to this touchdown. So, but overall, that fit was fine though. There's tons of stuff to go into there, but the moral of the story is they were okay. They played it well, and Wilson just didn't make a tackle.
Yeah, sometimes I don't have overwhelming problems with how they're scheming things. I think there's what happened Monday night is a do your job from a man perspective. I did not think that they had all 11 doing the right thing at the right time. More often.
I'm with you, and that's one reason that I'm willing to give Woods, well, not a complete pass, but a pass. And I'd like to see what they do in this defense next year, just based on the personnel, based on the injuries. I have some quibbles with certain things I see. Like I think he's become very predictable on the red zone and 3rd and long. It just feels like we always get the offense coordinator's best play at the worst time. But I mean, just overall, looking at what we have, particularly coming off the bye week, I don't think he's doing a terrible job based on what we see. And I know a lot of people had issues with that blitz and that zero call at the end of the game. But my contention is this: if he had played coverage, so let's say he just rushes 4 and he plays cover 3 or cover 4, if they complete that pass, then everyone's screaming about him playing soft zone.
Oh yeah, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah, and in my opinion, they schemed it up right. If everybody does their job there, they have Lamar boxed in, and you're forcing him to make a throw from a weird angle on a shallow cross when he hasn't been on the field throwing in an hour of real time.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that too. But I don't, I don't like this man call with the knowing that the ends have to peel and eat the tailback if he releases out because of the bunch. It's just there's already a ton of traffic there with 3 defenders and 3 offensive players. So when you add that 4th, there's just way too much to go through, and that's too much to ask of a defensive end. I don't know if they have some sort of check or system built in though, where they could somehow get out of it or alter, the coverage, the path. I don't know, an alternate play call that can be made because the back started weak. So this would have been much nicer if the back had just stayed weak there. He would have released. Garrett would have peeled and eat him, and we'd have ended up with Goodson where he was at, but also OB playing contain. When they reset him strong, that's what really screwed the play, in my opinion.
I'm with it. So generally, listen, this is not from a production standpoint been our best work. We are just firing up how John and I are going to do these defensively. We will check back in after the New York game. I think that there's a lot to talk about this defense. I do want to see how they bounce back this week. And John kind of laid out to you where he stands on Wood. Some things are becoming a little predictable in some situations, and those things they have to work on. I think they certainly know it. But the biggest thing to me was I know that we want to complain about scheme, and I know we've had a lot of talk about Jimmys and Joes. I think they just have to have guys do their job. There's some breakdowns, play to play, that are happening, and especially breakdowns that get magnified when you play. You play Baltimore, when your margin for error with Baltimore and Lamar is so small. I would say it's up there with Kansas City in terms of your margin for error. You just have to everybody has to do their job all the time, and especially it's a complete shift of how they approach the defensive line approaches getting after the quarterback. You have to completely change how you play the pass because you're used to getting sacks. Well, that's not necessarily, you're pursuing sacks. You have to let Lamar run into sacks. That's the difference. Like you can't get to him all the time. And I think if you're too zealous in your approach, it's going to bite you. And I think that's what happened on far too many of these. And hopefully this is a big learning experience for them because I don't think this defense is full of a bunch of guys who are big time NFL players. They just have just a bunch of guys, in my opinion, about 8. They play 3 difference makers if Denzel's healthy, and then a bunch of Jags, right? Just another guy. They got a bunch of average guys, but you can still win football games with that. And they've won 9 games, so it's not. I don't want to pile on the defense right now, but if you're looking for why they gave up 47 points, take into account one is a 1-yard touchdown after they had just gotten a stop off of an interception. You obviously have a safety that gets mixed in there too, so it's like. It's probably a 35-point effort, but you just can't have breakdowns. You can't have breakdowns, and I'm sure these guys are sitting in film and they're talking about this whole thing, and and just looking at a couple guys on big plays not doing their job. So hopefully they'll bounce back this week. John, anything to add, my friend?
No, sir. You hit it.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. I don't know how many of you even joined us and maybe you listened to us blabber. I promise we will have a much better coherent plan, a much better, more coherent plan next week. We'll I'm working out the StreamYard technology. Not a great start, but by the time the season ends, we'll have it really flushed out. So thanks for joining us, man. Oh, we might have a question.
Oh,
looks like Mike's been with us for a while. So given that this was the second game versus Lamar, how concerned are you that this didn't seem to stay in their lane rule? Is that on the coaches or the players? I'll let you answer that, John.
Concerned. I'm not overly concerned, but definitely concerned. Simply because this offense is just so difficult, and once you throw in again the moving gaps, the motion, Lamar's athleticism and speed, it looks like offensive coordinator Greg Roman has started or stopped being quite so predictable. So it's so difficult to fit it correctly, and so as we saw, there's some issues with players, but it is all coaching, because it's on coaches to develop this game plan and to be able to effectively communicate it and teach it to their players. Again, I'm still sticking with I'm giving Woods a bit of a pass this year simply because of the talent on the field, because at least half these guys, if not more, aren't going to be on the team next year. And it's just it's so difficult to do this correctly with guys that really aren't NFL players. So I guess to answer your question, Mike, yeah, I'm concerned, but not overly concerned yet.
Okay, good stuff, Mike. Thanks for joining us. I think you're one of the few that stuck it out for the whole time. If anybody else has questions, I always say, you can check out Ask the Insider section and ask us any question that you will get a thorough breakdown, no matter what, about whatever your question is, and we'll try to get there for you. Same with the Baker Mayfield film room stuff. We'll do that too. So sorry this wasn't a perfect presentation, but hopefully you were able to learn a thing or two from this game. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back with Baker, and we'll do something on defense again next week after hopefully the Browns beat the Giants. So we'll check back in then. Go Browns.